Sup, Chaos1072 here for another Chaos Toys review. Today, taking a look at the Kamen Rider Ghost DX Gan Gun Saber. This is Ghost primary weapons, and unlike previous roleplay weapons from the last few years, it is not a one-trick pony. In fact, this thing is going to get quite a bit of longevity, at least until December, and maybe even longer. And I'll show you why in a bit. And it very heavily reminds me of the Den Gasher from Kamen Rider Den-O, because this thing has quite a few modes in it. And what was also included was the DX Musashi icon. 01 Musashi. And before we get into the saber, let's henshin first. Let's just put this off to the side. It was on. And we are now Musashi Damashi! And if you're wondering who Musashi is, he is a samurai, I don't know what year, age, era, any of that. And I'm not sure if he invented it or if he just had a new way of doing things of two-handed sword wielding. But, yeah. And let's do the attack. And if you're wondering why I didn't show over the icon, it's the same as the others. The only one probably going to go over more is if I get Candy or Gashapons, which might be the case this month since they are releasing a ton of stuff this month. Now the Omedama. And I'm just going to shut this off. Let's set it to the Musashi side for later. Now, to grab this. The Gan Gun Saber. Now, it is very dinky compared to the show. I mean, here's the Ghost Driver. It's about the size of the Ghost Driver in terms of the blade. But, as a note, Bandai of America scales their swords better. Bandai of Japan makes better scaled gun weapons. Just thought I'd kind of throw my opinion in on that. But yes, very dinky. In the show, it is more of a traditional, almost a two-handed sword size. But this blade is much bigger in the show. But the handle is a smidge small, especially for my somewhat big hands, but you know, not too bad compared to some other weapons. I mean, both fingers are kind of on the trigger up here, but not too bad for a size. And this thing takes 3 AAA batteries, 2 in here and then 1 up here. And one thing I would like to mention is that this part is actually clear plastic, but the inside is painted. So it gives you that nice effect, and so you can see that it is clear plastic. But it is clear plastic painted on the inside, which gives it a nice effect. Almost a ghost spectral effect, so to speak. So let's turn this bad boy on. Yes, it tells you what it is. Now, you only get one attack sound in the sword mode. Now, here's where this gets interesting and why I said it. Well, here's where the transformation stuff comes in and why it reminds me of the Den Gasher. So you're going to see this button on the back and you're wondering, oh, what does it do? well, you press it, and then you pull on this blade. Oh, and it disconnects. Now, if you unfold this part, you get Musashi 2 dual-wield swords. And that is... Now, that's not all. And you get 2 attack sounds. 2 swords, and then the 1. And I'll get over the attack sounds in a bit. We'll work our way back, and if you fold this up back to this, you're going to notice there's quite a big gap down here. Now, before I get into this mode, Musashi seems to be the only mode that does not sort of get an additional part. The other 3 modes I'm going to show, including the standard blade mode, are the basis for an additional piece in the Ghost Gadget series. But here's the next one, the Naginata mode, and I know I can't get this fully on screen, but it's just 2 of them. Now, there are only 3 episodes in, and this is a blue, and it has 2 attack sounds. And for most forms, the color indicates which Damashi it goes to, but this is blue. Newton doesn't have hands. His are kind of enclosed in a boxing glove, very similar to Kamen Rider Knuckle from Gaim. But I seen the preview for episode 4, and it looks like Ghost is using this mode in Ore form, so it could just be an alternative mode, and instead of just making it an orange, they want to use the blue in here. Don't know. We'll find out later. Oh, and I accidentally triggered the thing. There's 2 little buttons in here. And there's a little divot sort of thing right here that slides against this, and it'll tell it which form it's going into. Now let's get into the finisher, since this is the only time it's going to be anywhere near this mode. Now this eye needs to meet up with this little magnet right here. You get a standby sound. And that's what you get for Naginata mode. Now, that's not all it does. Each form, including the additional forms, each function separately. I'm just going to take this off and not bother putting it back into Musashi form. Well, into the... And the speaker is right up here, by the way. And then you get the Omega Slash in Musashi mode. And bring that down. Now, instead of putting this back like this, you want to put it back like this. Then you get a gun mode for Edison. And you can see the yellow LED. Now, you only get the 1 shooting sound, but... the finisher? And this goes back to, and that is the Omega Shoot. This goes back to what I said about Bandai of Japan doing better gun weapons in terms of scaling. I mean, this feels like an actual gun. I mean, in terms of the giant barrel, not really, but it feels like I'm holding a gun. So that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're kind of picking between weapons, like for Super Sentai. Like, example is the Super Mega Blade. As crappy as the sounds were, it scaled a lot better compared to the Gokai Saber, whereas the Gokai Gun was a lot better than the Super Mega Blaster. But that's a different point for a different day. So, oh, and this will not come out unless you press this button. Now let's put it back into blade mode. Now, instead of pulling out to the driver, now you gotta notice there is a very reminiscent thing between this and the belt, where you have to pass it over the belt in order to activate its finisher. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Yes, it uses the same tech as the Deno belt. In fact, if I take my Rider Pass, now just to show there wasn't any sort of trickery. I don't know why I would think I would be deceiving people, but just to show. And there you go. But yes, this uses the same tech as the Rider Pass to the belt. Now you can't get this to work with the belt, and this isn't going to affect anything in this driver because this doesn't recognize that there is a thing nearby. But that raises a problem with this compared to the Dengasher, where it had no electronics. Actually it did, but the finisher wasn't in the toy. The problem with this is the finisher is in this toy, but it requires an outside source to cause the noise. So that might be a sort of issue if you're only able to get this first, but if you have a Deno pass, you're good to go. I'm not sure if there are any other gimmicks that may be able to trigger this, or what a specific type of magnet is used to trigger the sounds in here, but you could probably find one somewhere. So, do I recommend this? Yes, if you plan to get the Ghost Gadget series, and I'll get into that in the next review, since I'm doing Robin and the Condor phone in the same one, because if not, that'd be a short review. Anyway, now I'd plan on getting editions, maybe not all of them. I might skip out on Spectres, but I'm at least getting Ghost versions of this, because Billy the Kid gets a machine gun. But yeah, if you plan on expanding upon this to kind of support the line, but if not, just pick up a Candy or Gashup version of this. I mean, you're going to miss out on the metallic stickers, but it's just stickers. And I know some people are really big on getting DX, and that's perfectly fine. But this isn't a bad getting the Gasha or Candy is not a bad alternative, especially if you don't want this. Or maybe you just want this before you want to, cheap or whatever. But yeah, I can easily recommend this if you plan on getting more into this. But on its own, you do get 4 weapons. That is a lot more than most things you get nowadays. I mean, Drive, it was pretty much one-trick ponies besides the trailer hoe. Wizard was fairly involved. Gimes was only involved because of the gimmick. While this is gimmick independent, where you don't need a gimmick. Wizards was fairly involved. O's, not very involved. Doubles was heavily dependent on the gimmick, and Decade was meh. But this is probably one of the best roleplay weapons, like the Dengasher, because you don't get a crazy amount, but you get 4 weapons in one. And that's 4 ways to play out of one roleplay weapon. That doesn't happen very often in Kamen Rider or Super Sentai. You kind of have to bog this thing down with gimmicks in order to get 3-4 modes out of it. I mean, you do have to get more of the Ghost Gadget series to get the most out of this, but hey, if you want, you can just poke up here for the extra pieces. There are 4 Ghost Gadgets that are at least programmed to work with this. I know we have 3 announced, being the phone, the bat, and the spider lantern, whereas the other Ghost Gadget, I'm not sure if it works with this, is Spectres. So, again, just a quick summarization again. If you're planning on buying into it more, easy recommendation pickup. If you're just getting it for Musashi, I mean, you get a fairly good toy, but if you're mainly just getting this for Musashi, just get a Candy or Gashapon. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.